If someone asked you, could you say with any assurance where your business is aiming to be in 5 or 6 years' time, or what options are under consideration? And would other people in your leadership team have the same answer? Let's find out what Peter encountered in Trinidad.
It is a good question, isn't it? Where are we planning to be, not next year, but 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years' time? It's a big question, not well answered by many businesses, I know. In a previous story, talked about meeting a leadership team in Trinidad, BG, fast-growing, lively, and beginning the process of team development. What I didn't tell is an additional little bit later story. On the plane flying out to Trinidad, to Port of Spain, I met a geologist called Andy Carmichael. He was the BG head office back in Reading, and he had a project to make an integrated planning and scheduling process for the whole of the international organization. And he'd chosen Trinidad as a first pilot, and he wanted to come and introduce planning. And I slightly nodded off. I don't know what you think, but planning is not a very interesting subject, is it? But we were staying in the same hotel when we arrived, and we found ourselves sitting together on the veranda watching the sun go down, having a couple of beers. And Andy was quite persuasive and quite keen with what he was doing. And I thought, well, if that's what they're doing, let's join in and see if we can be helpful. And Andy's task, I found, I joined him and his sessions for a while, was for each of the members of the leadership team to write on one piece of paper what they plan to be doing over the next 8 years. They could put in blocks or circles, but there's this piece of work, there's that piece of work, there's this that we'll run through. But on one piece of paper, put the whole 8 years. 2 years out, so the last quarter of it, is the point at which the capital expenditure, the CapEx, has been committed. So on that part of their sheet of paper, that's delivery. They've got the money, they now have to actually deliver that in time. And Andy's went on to a scheduling process that then had 3 months and went down to 1 day. So it was a very comprehensive thing. The beginning, and I helped him, was coaching these leaders on how they put their 8 years onto one piece of paper.
Is there a reason it was 8 years, just out of interest?
I think in that kind of business, you have to bid for exploration rights, then explore, and that's quite a big, long process to find fuel and then to prepare to refine and so on. So I think it was a reasonable picture, but equally it was many more years than most of them had in mind, to be honest. They battled. Some were more clear on the operational side because they were on set projects. Some were less clear. Some had things they would like to do that they put there on the map. This is what I'd really like to do. Some were dependent on others. IT and the systems they bought depended on what everybody else was doing and so on.
Yeah.
So what I suggested was that they should each present their 8-year plan to all their colleagues. We had a room for a day, had a big, large screen on one wall, and they took turns, and each one threw up their plan so that everybody could see it and discuss it. And I proposed a rather simple dialogic approach, dialogic actions, we call it, where each of their 8-year plan would be what we call a move. This is what they propose. And then I asked all of them to follow that move, which meant all of them to say what they liked about the plan. First guy's up, the plan's out. What do you like about this? Tell us what you think is helpful, good, positive. The second question was, I'd like you all to oppose the plan. Say where you don't like it, where you think it's weak, where you have doubts about it, where you have concerns about it, where you believe more thinking might be helpful. And don't get depressed hearing all this, it's helpful to hear it years out.
Yeah.
And of course, people will be giving you feedback as well. So do it kindly, but do get out in the open your concerns. And then the last part, the third round, if you like, was a round of bystands. What experience have you got that might be relevant to all of this? So that was a little pattern.
This is the bringing in of the dialogic piece. The kind of planning process was brought in by somebody else in BG, and that was special because it was getting people to think much longer term. Then you were getting people to collectively support and challenge and look at each other's plans. So there was an opportunity for some alignment maybe of those plans.
So they're integrated in that the planning process is a thinking process, and now we're talking together about what we're thinking. So they're a way of helping Andy do what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
And methodically, people are quite either over the top or cautious about giving negative feedback. But obviously it's needed. So we legitimize it and say this is one of the steps. And if we don't pick it all up now, we'll be weaker for it. They each had a turn. They went one by one.
Yeah.
Some were just what I call atrocious. They had ideas about what to do over the next 9 months. It was quite embarrassing, really, where somebody'd say, well, this is what I intend to do, but not have anything on their map. You can say it's more difficult for somebody like HR, but they didn't go out very far on their thinking.
Yeah.
Others are interdependent, like IT, the kind of computer systems, hardware and software they were buying, didn't correspond that clearly with some of the thinking that was going on by others. So it was a sobering day. And Garrett, the CEO, was listening because his plan was simply all of theirs put together. And following that, there were some quite serious conversations privately. It became clear that the whole business didn't hold together. They could see weaknesses 4 to 5 years out where the business was not going to do well. It would be threatened. So it was a very effective process because that set them then to start thinking differently together about how they should collectively tackle the leadership of the asset.
So it was important just seeing the situation. It's not just in having a plan that you enact, it's actually the plan enabling you to see the situation in the immediate and longer term. Yeah.
It also then defined the conversations Derek had with each of them. So when he would talk to them, how's it going? What progress are you making? One of them say, oh, I've just had this idea about doing this. He'd say, where is it on the plan?
Mm-hmm.
Not on the plan, I'm not going to talk about it. So things had to be put alongside each other. And they had, as a leadership team for the first time, a view of their future. It wasn't that future 2 to 8 years out is definitely going to happen. It's that it has a lot of good prospects in it that mean that the business will thrive and develop given that. And that, I think, gave them a kind of confidence, a kind of imagination, but a kind of sense of almost of prosperity, that once they got their thinking right, they were in a good organization that knew where it was going.
Yeah. Presumably then you can be prepared for what might not go well and you have options and that you can prioritize and then make choices in a more kind of aware and aligned way as you go. Can I ask a quick question about the challenge that they saw coming 4 or 5 years out? If it wasn't for this process, this more open process, how would that have been seen? Or would it just have been seen by 1 or 2 people and not everyone?
If it was seen by a few people, but it probably wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Anyone listening, if I said, how are you thinking about your business 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years out? There might not be any thinking there. More of the same isn't the right answer, or getting bigger isn't the right answer. There's more to it, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
It's rather a simple process, isn't it? For each member of the leadership team to lay out their thinking on one sheet of paper and think about it with all their colleagues, so we have a collective thinking about the way forward, and the impact on the business can be extraordinary.
Thank you. That was very interesting. Thank you.